Move to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Pam, any discussion, changes, additions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Minutes are passed. We're gonna skip down to item 4, which is, review the Hudson Boosters conditions for use of Grandview Park football fields by the Hudson Area Lacrosse Association. Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Please state your name and.
Jeff McNamara, President of the Hudson Area Lacrosse Association. So I'm pleased to say that we've come to an agreement with the boosters to use that field for the month of May. So no worries and no issues on that.
And that's the agreement we have here, the
It's the agreement that you
14-point
have.
agreement?
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. So the one remaining item that we have to do is just get all of us together to review the field prior to usage here in the coming of May. So that's the only item. We'll provide the check for $2,000 as kind of a coverage fee, and then we'll just proceed from there. I did want to provide some interesting facts for you all, as far as I'd say fun facts for Lacrosse Association, just to kind of put it in perspective. So today is the first day. We've had a varsity level program. They're playing their first game today, so that was a nice milestone for us. So we've got it all the way through the varsity levels now, which is fantastic. And that's the team that'll use the booster fields for the 5 games in May. But as we look back at where we are today, so last year we fielded 5 teams total. This year we're fielding 9 teams, all the way from the 3-4 level to the varsity level. So 50% growth practically in the number of teams. Our current roster now is 179 kids that are playing lacrosse through all of those grade levels. And last year was 121. So, you know, first year players, we got 40 people who have never played before. We've got 80 who are in their second year, 121 are in their third year. And of course, now we got the 179 for the 4th year. As you know, we're also trying to develop across the community, right? So we are the Hudson Area Lacrosse Association. We're trying to encourage Somerset, North, and you know, like New Richmond and all these areas to come in there. So we actually have kids from Somerset, Prescott, River Falls, New Richmond, Holton, Roberts, and of course Hudson and North Hudson that are participating. So hopefully as this continues to grow, it'll catch on in some of those communities, and we can continue to grow the program. Right now, we know that we have a close partnership with Woodbury. We have more kids in our program than Woodbury has in their program right now. So it's phenomenal growth. We're real happy to see it. And you know, we're just continue to be competitive. Our motto and our philosophy is to make sure we continue to develop you know, good, strong sportsmanship, you know, attributes in all the kids that are playing. So what we'd like to do is, in the last meeting we discussed some potential field locations. We've kind of went out and studied a couple of them. The Whitcap area, that's not very feasible with all the blacktop that's up there. It only is about 35 yards wide as far as we could tell. And we need to have a field that's about 60 yards wide. Burton Field is a little short with the playground that is in there, so we didn't really have an opportunity or see an opportunity to do that. But what we'd like to do is continue to explore the old hospital location up by Prospect Park.
Okay.
So we'd like to, you know, formalize those discussions. We're kind of getting our season going, so we're all busy and we're all kind of, you know, trying to run from here to here. And but we'd like to, you know, meet with whoever's necessary in order to continue to explore that opportunity.
Okay.
Any questions for me?
Anyone? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to the, do you want to say a couple words?
Just, I guess one question, comment. I had suggested to Deb that maybe we turn this into a document that, you know, all 3 involved parties sign, the city, boosters, and lacrosse association, just so, you know, it's a signed agreement. I don't know what the status is, or if you need anything from me to do that.
Yeah, if you just want to submit it to us, and then I guess we can forward it to the administrator.
Okay.
As long as it's the same as this and there's no changes.
Yeah, just put a spot there for the
Yep.
signatures for.
Any idea if this needs council approval? And we're just kind of, I don't think it does, it's just,
I don't think it does either,
Okay.
so you'll probably be the signature. And
okay.
Do you need a motion from us ratifying this agreement then?
I think that'd
Also
be-
move.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Pam seconds it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen, for working that out. Appreciate that. We'll go to item 5, and we'll come back to item 3 after we finish item 5. And item 5 is a review request to use a city park for disc golf. Mr. Bogenhagen. And Mr. Fett.
Hi, thank you. Did you get a handout for that? Yes, good. It compares the two sites. We looked pretty carefully at both of the sites, White Camp Park and also the Meadows. And we thought that White Camp seems superior in just about every way. It's all set up right now, and really it would be good to go with just the installation of the baskets. It's already got restrooms there. We're already mowing that, so there wouldn't be any additional mowing that would be needed. And it's virtually maintenance-free. There really is no maintenance. And the other place is big enough, Meadows is big enough to hold it, to have a disc golf course. But there'd be quite a bit of mowing that would have to be done, certainly for about 20 feet wide for the fairways. And also, there's just, it seems like there's a lot of houses, about a dozen houses that front right on it that could be it could be a problem of some sort, I guess, just because they're so close. Whereas with White Camp, there really are no neighbors that are right there, right next to it. There are some that are behind some trees. But, so, anyway, it just seems like both sites would work, but I think both of us feel White Camp would be superior, and really would be a great place. It's already got the parking too, which is another thing.
Yeah, parking. There'd be lots of infrastructure to be developed at Meadows Park to get it going. Parking lot, accessibility to get to the park, making the land workable for disc golf in that, it's sort of like a catch basin for all the water that gets drained out, and making it suitable, for the disc golf would be pretty much a full undertaking versus using something that's already there and usable.
So your research or your determination is both sites will work for your needs. It's just a matter of if we want to pursue this.
Right.
We'll have to figure that out. Okay, so does anybody have any questions for these gentlemen at this time?
I have some concerns, I guess. Tom and I went out to the state park. We talked to, can you help me out, Tom? Who did we talk to?
Adam Weber, I believe.
Yeah. And we kind of asked him what their experience was, and they had, he finally said, he had a lot of complaints from parents with children. There was a lot of vulgarity. Sometimes, and I'm not talking about you guys at all. Some of the guys would go into the woods with a 12-pack of beer and come out with nothing. And there was damage to trees. That was another concern of theirs out there. And I think that's the reason that they asked to discontinue that. So, and I walked through White Camp last night, and probably some of the same concerns I have are there's a lot of young trees that we're trying to start up there. And if a disc is ricocheting off of those, that might be the end of those trees, a couple of trees anyways.
Well, those are concerns with young trees, and I think what Aaron was making mention too of the damage on the trees might have been a large dew part was that there's a lot of oak trees out there, and they're in a setting where there wasn't any traffic of any sort at all. And there's a phenomenon that is known as soil compaction, where as strong as oak trees are, they actually have some Achilles heels. And the soil compaction kind of has a hardship on its roots after it's gone through full maturity. And then it gets a change of pace, of course. But yeah, there'd have to be some accommodations to make sure that we're clear of the smaller trees that are growing. And
Were you talking about putting
consideration of that.
one of the holes along the bluff area at all? Up on the, I think it's the south side of the...
Well,
At
it
the
would,
south side of the bluff where there's the cliff.
Right.
Be
The
one-
holes would basically be, I'd say at least 150 feet away from that zone.
Okay.
Because throwing a disc over something like that, you know, there could be room for like 3, maybe even 4 fairways if it wasn't there. But since it is there, we're basically only having 2 fairways, maybe that comes one way in and one way out, all the way to the other side of it.
We'd be throwing away from that bluff area, so that there'd be no way that you could throw over the bluff. It'd be going almost in an opposite direction away from it. And then in terms of the young trees, we totally agree with that, and we wouldn't want to hurt those. And the design of the course could be done in such a way that it just wouldn't, they wouldn't be, they couldn't be hit by just by the dint of the design. So I don't think that would be a problem. Now, in terms of swearing, you know, yes, there has been some swearing, but you know, there's swearing on ball golf courses too. I don't think it's any worse or more vulgar on a disc golf course.
I think that the location would be conducive to having kids better behavior. Out of the state park, they're a couple miles out of town, there's trees around, and they think they have the world to themselves.
Well, and that's my concern, is we've got
Yeah.
a brand-new pavilion up there that, you know, costs $250,000, I think, and I just want to make sure that we're not just opening that up, because we're going to be renting that, I'm assuming, too, down the road. And I don't know what the expectation is when you rent that. Do you rent the park or you just rent the pavilion? I'm not sure, so. But I have some concerns. You know, I live in that area, but I've walked through it now several times just to kind of see who's hanging out there. And it's mostly families, just moms and kids. That's all I've seen so far.
Yeah, the most attractive thing for the participation and the usage of it at White Camp Park is, of course, the Red Cedar Canyon areas, the residences that are right there and adjacent to it, without having any above residential speed zones in between the two, would make it very accessible for young children on bikes.
But it's one of those things where I was just gonna say, if it ever were a problem, I mean, it's one of those things where, obviously you could pull the course, but I think to disallow it or not want it to go in because there might be swearing, you know, I think is, you know, precluding a really good sport for Hudson. It was very popular at the state park, and I think they probably told you that. It's extremely popular. People want to play disc golf. It's not something you put in and then it just sits there. So.
Nothing against disc golf. You know, my son plays it. I was watching a couple guys play it out by the church out there, past the roundabouts the other night. So I stopped and I watched, you know, for a little bit. And
The Team for Christ.
yes, that was it. So I stopped and I watched him for a couple of minutes. You know, I just don't know that personally, I don't know if it's a good use for that park. That's just my personal feelings. I don't know. As I was watching those guys play out at that, I looked to my left, and here we have an industrial park that's not being used out there. You know, just throwing ideas out here, but I looked to my left and I saw just this vacant property sitting right there, with
On the
roads
south
already
side of
cut
Main
into
Road.
it and everything, you know, I don't know, I'm just throwing things out here, that's all.
Yeah, so then the level of participation that the city would want to put forth on this, you know, is totally up to your option, in that, well, if we want to try it out, we can set it up as temporary or as permanent as we want right away. We can set it up more on a temporary basis, and, you know, if it is totally approved and a good deal, you know, a couple of years down the road, we can make it more permanent. What I'd mean is that the holes would be anchored in concrete, and they would be the same no matter what. But as far as the tee-off areas, the tees, you know, would we want to invest at our expense? I have a sponsor for any of the costs of the course. You know, how nice of a sign do we want to have? You know, do we think it's going to be there permanently or not? We could make it more temporary, and just the tee-off area, which is basically 3 feet across with a little bit of a run-up. We could just put out a simple board and just kind of let the thing evolve, so that would have the smallest environmental footprint, so that if we decide to go somewhere else, then there wouldn't be an asphalt or a concrete pad. It's always usually best on disc golf courses to actually have growing time where the course is there, the ideas that are behind the designers, you know, everything is always good and right and the intention. But then once it gets evolved into, then you can say, oh, well, maybe we should have changed this over a little bit, or something else comes up. And then it would be easier to accommodate a change for something like that. So,
So how much space does the course take on that park, or what would it be? I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with how this is structured,
The-
so space-wise.
The average hole takes up about half to a full acre maybe, or let's say, and the average hole is probably 3/4 of an acre. And an acre is essentially a football field without the end zones.
yeah.
So that would be, I guess, an average hole is gonna be, could be 50, think of it as maybe 50 yards long, or possibly 75 yards long, and maybe, 20 yards wide, I guess. But there is no there are some really long holes on some courses and some very short little holes. So it's kind of, and actually with any course, it's good to have a variety if you can. And this one, it's gonna be fairly short, because it would be a beginner type course for everybody, not a pro type course.
So total space that you would envision this taking would be how many acres?
I think
Maybe
this may be
8,
about seven
7 to
or 8
8
acres.
acres, maybe, yeah.
Do you have a potential layout done yet for it?
Yeah, we do have we have a kind of a preliminary look at how,
Nice to see that.
For both parks.
both parks. Okay, great. Let's do that. Well, maybe we could get that for next month.
You know, personally, I look at it, my thinking goes, White Camp would be a good location because of bathrooms and those kind of facilities and everything that's there, but only as a temporary to see how it does go. And my other question is, who's in charge? Who's the boss? Who tells people, stop that, you can't do that here, go away?
Yeah.
Who does that?
No one, I don't think.
That's my concern, is who's gonna be policing it and taking, and overseeing it to making sure that the behavior that you want is taking place and that you don't want is being corrected.
Well, we have a club of very, gung-ho disc golfers, and if necessary, we could have it set up in such a way that someone is in charge, between, it probably wouldn't be the entire day, but say, certainly on a weekend, it would be from, say, 9 or 10 in the morning until 6 or 7 at night, for most of the day. And also on the weekend nights and things. I think we could set up such
I
a way.
think that kind of proposal brought to us of showing where it was going to be, and then what you're doing to address the situations that arose at the state park, what
Yeah,
you can realistically,
sure.
do and not do. But I think those kinds of things to put our concerns at rest would make me more comfortable in allowing it there.
Excellent. It's a good idea.
Tom, do we have trails planned in White Camp?
That'll be talked about a little bit later, but we, as capital improvements, this year, we do have, some monies put away for trail improvement in White Camp Park.
So that should be incorporated into any plan that,
Well, it would have to, once we decide exactly what
Okay.
the trails were, this would have to,
Yep.
How do you-
If I could just add one thing, just a couple thoughts when I was talking with someone about this, is another couple locations we could consider would be a Coons Hill area, which is kind of a nice place. And then the other thing, another area would be the government center, kind of in between the YMCA and the government center. That's kind of open fields and some trees. If, for instance, this didn't work out, but that was just a couple ideas where another couple good spots could be for you, so.
So the city owns property between the government center and the Y?
That would be the St. Croix County.
St. Croix
That would be
County.
something you'd have to speak with them about. But
Okay.
there are some trails through there, and, currently, I don't know of anything that's gonna be developed in there soon.
Mhm.
And then, of course, Coons Hill is kind of a hilly,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a
Yeah,
slow
there's
area.
kind of a valley that goes from Vine Street over to Wisconsin.
Yep.
So how do you manage play on the course? At a golf course, you make a reservation or
Yeah.
a tee time. How
It's
would
just
you-
like a swing set.
It's a good question, but yeah, it is similar to a swing set in a sense, it's first come, first serve. And you just, typically the way it works is if there's somebody waiting on the first tee, then you would just wait behind them. They would tee off, they would wait till they're done playing, and then you would tee off. And there are no tee times, it's more informal than a regular golf course.
But aren't you gonna have league?
Yeah, we'll have leagues too, we
league
want
nights
to,
and
absolutely.
through
Sure, and that,
up here?
mhm.
if we decide
We're gonna
to
have
do
leagues and
those?
lessons and things, so I mean, there will be structured, league play there and lessons that we're gonna give, to show people how to play. But in terms of, in general, you know, when it's not league time, there are no tee times, it's very informal, just show up and play.
One question, say if you get a number of people, what would you expect? There could be 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people playing. Would that, all those people affect other people that are there for the enjoyment of the park? Say if they wanted to have picnics and they're sitting somewhere within the park underneath a tree having a picnic, and all these people are flinging stuff, I mean, would that interfere with people's enjoyment of the total park?
Well, we're not using the total park though, like, for instance, on White Camp, it would be probably about maybe half the park that we're actually using. A lot of the park, we're not gonna be using at all, like for instance, down by the playground area, and then the pavilion area, and that whole area that's out in that kind of, as you drive up, it would be to the right as you're driving into the parking lot. That whole area is not used either. So I'd say probably half of the park is not being used for disc golf.
Well, I think as Pat alluded to, come back to us with a proposal and a layout for both parks,
Okay.
and let's visit that and see where we can, you know, what we decide to do from there.
All right, great.
That
So,
gives us some time to
Good.
think about and you know, which direction we wanna go, if White Camp is better, or Meadows, or neither, so.
all right, great. So hopefully we'll see you then next month.
Good.
All right.
Agenda
Okay.
job.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate your time.
All right, move back up to item 3, which is update on 2011 capital projects. Tom?
Did everyone get a copy of the project? So I guess any questions on those? We have some money put aside for park equipment, water fountains, keyless entries. I am working with Mike Kruger. We're thinking of getting some keyless entries on the city hall, where we could actually incorporate that in a software program, and we can control when they're locked and closed, restrooms. Although most of that is tied around if the building has telephones. Prospect Park, Williams do not have telephones, so most of the other ones do. White Camp Park does not, but I don't think it'd be a problem at least getting a phone line in there. Walking trail improvements, now that is down at the bathhouse. That's that area that's west of the bathhouse we've been talking about for the last couple of years, so. I'd like to get something done with that. Prospect Park, we have a sink and counter. We'd like to get a little better setup right now. There's just last year we put a new sewer line from there down to the restroom, out into the road, so we have that all done, and this would just make it utilize it better for people that have it reserved. And then tied along with that is a new electrical panel. Right now, the one that we have is cumbersome,
You're
not
getting,
very appealing, so we have both of those projects at Prospect Park.
you're getting bids on those right now? Or
We're getting bids
prices?
for the electrical panel, the sink and counter. We've looked at some used restaurant equipment. Didn't exactly find what we wanted there yet, so we are working on that.
Okay.
Other projects include some work to be done down at the boat launch parking lot. I don't know if that's gonna be an overlay or just some maintenance work. We have one set of bleachers that are, the old ones aren't in compliance, so we wanna get those updated. The beach house parking lot, that definitely will be some type of mill and overlay. We need a new serving window, the roll-up window down there, we've tried to repair a few times, so we'd like to get a new window for that. The stairway improvements for the sailboat mooring, I have contacted the DNR lady several times, have not heard back in the last couple weeks. I've sent her photos, measurements, prints, and everything, so I'm just waiting for a response back from there. Once I get the okay from her, then we'll move forward with getting some bids and get that going. White Camp Trail, those monies would be coming from some impact fees for that area. I think that would be a great project to get done this summer.
Do we have a design or layout for that yet?
Just go off the concept plan. We can certainly bring that up at the next meeting, look at the concept plan and see, maybe I can have some rough estimates by then and see what we can get done for that amount of money.
Is that work we would do in-house or hire that out?
That would be hired out. And Burton Field, we're still, I've met a couple times with the new city engineers, and we're talking about how to proceed with the Burton Field design. So, some pretty good projects, and we're we'll make some good improvements, I think, this summer.
Questions for Tom?
Do you have plans to do any additional tree planting or anything? I know you talked about it at one time. Was there any?
Yeah, and actually last night at the council meeting, we presented the mayor with a Tree City USA plaque, which is down in the hallway, and we'll be talking a lot more about that on Arbor Day, which is April 30th. We have a celebration down in Lakefront Park. So this year we submitted requests for some proposals for tree management, and we're putting most of our forestry money into a management plan, tree inventory, and a emerald ash borer readiness plan and software, so we have that. But we did take some monies out, and we applied for a grant from the Rotary Club, and we're hoping we get that. We're gonna try to have a program where we'll have those monies set aside here, and we'll try to promote a program within the city where if someone will donate a tree, the city, out of this fund here, that will put a tree in. So we'll try to get 2 trees going. So we will have as we get trees in from that program, then we'd make sure that we'd have some in the parks. I'd definitely, we'll find locations and have some in the street boulevards and the parks. So hopefully we'll get trees in the parks, yes.
Any other questions at this time, Tom? Okay. Let's move on to item 7, which is request to install dogs running at large sign, ordinance number 99.5 at Hudson Meadows Park. Apparently, we received some complaints about citizens not cleaning up after their pet, and complaints about being chased by a loose dog. City Ordinance 99.5 deals with dogs running at large and picking up after your pets. Deb, what do we need to, you want to talk about that a little bit more?
I think, were you talking with Dave Krupich on that too?
No, I didn't talk to him about this. I actually had called about another area where there seemed to be.
I was wondering if it was the same area.
A different
this
area,
came
but
from the,
same idea.
Compliance officer, it was on safety, and they forwarded it to us, so I guess.
So are they gonna just install a sign with one of those big
I don't know if they were gonna put the
dispensers?
dispensers out there or not, probably not. Just the signage, I think, to start was what the plan was.
Those little bags cost a lot of money. I wish there was a way to, if we could get a program where you could take used groceries bags or something and recycle them somehow. I think there, some way, there might be a good way to do that.
Mhm.
If people would collect them and we could hang them in a little box or something, maybe it's a Boy Scout project or something. A little box, and people could just put them in there as they go use the park, and people that need them can just borrow some.
And maybe we could encourage folks to carry a bag when they have their pet on a leash. I think that, with the leash law that we've got in place, and maybe that's something when folks get licenses for their pets, we could also help remind about the need for cleaning up. I know along Carmichael, we installed some signs a couple years ago because there, the side stretched by the dog track, there was a lot of waste that was not getting picked up, so some signs reminding folks that they needed to clean up after their pets were installed, but, you know, maybe one way to address this also would be, you know, when we send out the next water bill, perhaps we could include a note reminding folks that pets should be on leashes and you're responsible for cleaning up after your pets. And then maybe safety could talk about it, or at the next council meeting as a reminder also. But I think, you know, if we could put a couple signs up that talk about that in the parks. Do the other parks all have this signage, or is it limited
Most
to?
of them.
Most of them do.
So maybe we're consistent with helping share that information.
So is this really just an informational item then? I mean,
Yeah,
it
it
sounds
is.
like the Public Works is gonna put the signs up, so.
Yep.
So people, please, when you go to the parks with your dogs, please clean up after your pets. Very simple.
So we should probably have a motion, because it's, then we can put it through council so that the police are aware that it's posted as well.
Did everybody hear Deb on that? We need a motion to approve the sign for Meadows Park.
I'll move to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second by Randy. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Can you check on, or does someone check on that water bill piece, or if
Sure.
there's another,
Mhm.
and maybe even on the city website, if we don't
Yeah.
have it out there, maybe we could
Sure.
put a reminder out there also.
That's a great idea, Pam.
Mhm.
Item 8 is project update. Tom?
Okay. White Camp Park, as soon as it gets a little drier, they'll do some excavating and clean up the area around the pavilion. And they just have some painting of the fascia and some final work up there. So my question would be on that one, when are we gonna allow, once the pavilion's done and the grading's done, we still wanna keep some people off that grassy area until we get something established. So there is a sidewalk from the parking lot to the pavilion. I don't know if we could fence that area off so they can use the pavilion, and then just keep that area clear of people for a while to get some grass established.
They just run a rope with some
Little
orange
signage,
ribbon,
so,
you know.
so, that'll be a good project to get done this summer, and it's, you know, should be done relatively early. Flood updates, the rivers should crest tomorrow night. We've been lucky, like Pat mentioned earlier, that the ice was mostly dissipated and gone, so it didn't really do a lot of damage to our trees and some of our equipment in Lakefront Park. So hopefully we lucked out on that part of it. The hockey boards, there is some issues with our questions. We received some hockey boards from the Hockey Association several years back. They've been sitting at our west garage, basically outside and under, and then with some lights and things. I don't know if the park board would like to hold on to those or give them back to the Hockey Association. I mean, right now they're just, you know, taking up space, and I don't know if we'd ever have the need for those. They're getting, I guess, some of the framework might be okay, but it's to the point where I don't know if we'd ever use a great big hockey boards, and
Are they better than the ones we've had in
No.
Burton?
no.
Oh, okay.
So that's something we should talk about, I guess, at some point. Ball fields, Burton Field, Grandview are currently open. We got the hockey boards off of Burton, and the fields are back to playable, and they're being
Being used
used. I went by there today, and there's both fields are being used today. The people up at Grandview Park, I think the first game, league starts Sunday.
Did you have any projects in mind for Grandview, the softball field, as far as any dirt or upgrades to the infield?
We did contract last year to have one field repaired. The snow came a little earlier and the contractor could not finish. He said as soon as it's dry enough, he'll be up there and finish that this year. And
I
like I
think they are
said,
getting new rock too.
Are they?
Some new rock, I don't know how much, but
And like I said earlier, I have been talking a little bit about Burton Field with the new city engineers to see what directions we can go.
You gotta keep an eye on field number 5 down there too, because that's part of our agreement to make sure we have enough infield dirt on that or upgrade it as necessary. I don't know that we have for a few years, so we'll need to keep an eye on that field 5.
Or if you wanna look at it
I'll
sometime
take a
with
look
me,
at
we
it. I'm
can-
going out there tonight, so
Sure.
take a look at it.
Going off of our list here, when are we going to move on the walking trail improvements by the bathhouse?
Well, we have to let the water go down first.
No, I understand that, but as far as, are you getting that out for a bid, or
More than likely.
we should probably move
Talked a
on?
little bit about it with the engineers, or, we've had kind of some ideas. Just if we could do it in-house, would be, maybe be a little cheaper, but, I'd like to at least get some ideas from him, and, I would say relatively soon.
Okay.
The money's actually, we can't do a lot till after they prove the bonding. I think it's gonna be after the May 2nd meeting, when we can actually start.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
The next meeting, we'll be talking about the White Camp Park Pavilion fees. We're gonna try to get some idea, and get some agreement together for that, and then the election of officers will be next month too. Just a reminder.
Any other items for upcoming agenda for next month?
No, but real quick, what's the status out at White Camp Park? Is that pretty well wrapped up, or where are we?
As far as,
Construction, the building, the,
oh, I thought I talked about,
no, the whole
oh,
pavilion?
the pavilion still needs to have the fascia soffit painted, some exterior lights installed, and then there's still some grading to do around the building.
Tom, is there gonna be any seal on the cement part, the interior? Is that needed or not?
The only thing that we put on as a add-on was, when they're out there painting, I asked them to put a graffiti sealer on the limestone rock after the graffiti was put on the entrance
Good idea.
rock. So I think we're gonna definitely put it on the stone facade of the building. We didn't talk about a concrete sealer per se.
It's very nice.
You ever have any leads on who did the vandalism before?
No, they were out for a couple nights or something and haven't really had a problem since, or, because they hit things in Red Cedar Canyon and, so the bridge down by the dog track, and maybe it was just a one-night thing, I don't know. But they did a pretty good job.
Pretty bad job.
Any other questions for Tom? Okay, now any items for upcoming agendas? For next month, anybody?
Move to adjourn?
There's a move to adjourn, and,
Can I just make one? This is National Volunteers Week, and I just want to take a second to thank all the volunteers in the community that help with our parks, whether it's planting flowers or with trees or just every other aspect that really make our parks beautiful and really contribute to the Hudson community. So I thought it would be nice just to tell the folks who contribute to that effort, thank you.
yes. We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.